Hi, folks. Andrew here. Top Fitness Strategies and Top Fitness Strategies presents. I am the face who runs the place, and I got another great interview for you this evening, and it's going to be fantastic because this is a little bit special, a little bit different than the typical fitness guru type person I bring you on here. And we'll get into the stories and everything else in just a quick second. So I'm going to bring him on here, and I purposely did not ask for a bio so we can talk about this. So my guest this evening is Dobie Maxwell from justmytypepodcast.com. Dobie, welcome to Top Fitness Strategies and Top Fitness Strategies Presents.
Andrew, it is a thrill to be on your program, your podcast. I've been a stand-up comedian since 1985. I've been on national TV, coast-to-coast radio. This is a jewel in my credits list, and I appreciate it, brother, because I know you do good work. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate that. You might not think that when we're all done here, but okay.
I do, man. I can already tell you're a good guy, and you know what you're talking about.
So this is, I guess, a little bit of, without getting real religious or anything, divine intervention, maybe. And the reason is, let me back up a second here. First of all, folks, behind the scenes, behind the bat cave, so to speak, Dobie and I have been trying to get together for the last couple of weeks through time differentials, different time zones, illnesses, weather, you name it. It happened, but we're here now, and this is fantastic. So I'm just excited to be here. Here's what happened and why I reached out to Dobie. I have a friend, a good friend of mine. I'm guessing, and I don't know the exact weight, but I'm guessing he was pushing about 300 pounds. Big guy, big old teddy bear, great guy. Love the guy to death. He started losing weight on a rapid basis. And I asked him one day, I said, "Are you sick or something?" He says, No. I mean, he just kept losing weight. I said, "Dude, what's going on?" He says, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, and he's probably below 180 at least right now. This happened within a year.
Okay.
And so the other day I asked him, I said, "Dude, are you doing any kind of workouts, any kind of exercise, any kind of fitness whatsoever?" Because he knows I do what I do online, and I also write a weekly column for our local newspaper, and he reads that as well. He says, "No, I'm not doing anything. Just change my diet." And forgive me if I don't know all the terminology here, but he has to take insulin or not taking. I forget what it is, but we'll get into it in a second. So I'm like, man, oh man, I'd like to get more research about this, find out about this. And just by chance, I got home that night from talking to him, clicked on YouTube, and I follow Kevin English from or something like that. And boom, your interview popped up. I'm like, wow.
Excellent. I love Kevin. Great guy. Fun interview.
And I interviewed him a few weeks ago as well. But just out of the blue, and I don't know if it's the computer listening, the YouTube algorithm, I don't know.
Cosmos, the universe.
It popped up there. And so when it said Just My Type Podcast, I'm like, oh, wait a second, Just My Type Podcast. What is this about? And then start talking about diabetes and diabetics and everything else. So I reached out to Dobie and I said, I got to get him on because something in the air was saying I have to get him on to talk about this. So that's how we got here. I don't know what they're how you, well, you didn't find me. I found you. I reached out and everything else. So thanks you for being here.
I'm glad you did. We have a lot to talk about.
Okay. First of all, and my lack of knowledge of this is going to be probably scary at the same time, good because people need to know this. What exactly is diabetes?
It's an excellent question. There are two types of diabetes, I found out. Type 1 is basically the pancreas malfunctions and does not create insulin. Type 2 is treatable, can be reversed with diet and exercise. That's what I was diagnosed with in 2011. Type 1s need to actually, take insulin. I was taking shots of insulin, blood sugar. I reversed it through diet and exercise in about, I would say, 3 months of constant walking, and just changed my diet completely, and dropped a lot of sugar. And as a stand-up comedian, our diets are absolutely horrible as Americans, North Americans too. I'm not going to leave Canada out of this, but especially comedians. Most people drive 30 to 45 minutes to work an 8 to 10 hour shift at a job. Comedians in my business, we drive 8 to 10 hours to work a 30 to 45 minute shift. So there's zero exercise. I'm in a car. I've got a Whopper in one hand, a giant Dr. Pepper in the other. I don't exercise. The heaviest thing I lift is a microphone stand. It's a horrible. And when I got diagnosed, I was overweight. I was in my mid 40s at the time. And I thought the diabetes, and the doctor said, does anyone else in your family have diabetes? And I said, no, they all got cancer and deserved it. I was trying to make a joke kind of thing. And they're like, oh, what are you, a comedian? Yeah. But nobody else in my family ever did. So I did learn a lot about it. And I reversed it, type 2, through diet and exercise. And then, like a dummy, I said, well, I'm cured. I'm fixed. I went right back into my lifestyle. How did I do that, man? And it's just, and I left back. So now I've got on the diabetic podcast, the Just My Type. And my partner, Sammy, is a type 1. She's 23. She's a dancer in her life. So it's basically a type 1 versus type 2. And I got back in it. So now, as we're recording this today, this is my 312th day of walking at least 5 miles a day, 10,000 steps or more, usually more. Yesterday, I walked about 6.5 miles. I've dropped 27 pounds. I stopped drinking. I don't know. You're in Indiana. You say pop or soda? I say soda where I live. A lot of people say pop. What do you say?
I say pop, but I've learned to say soda pop all the time.
Well, that's a good thing. You're hedging your bet there. I was down south in Georgia. They say Coke. Everything's Coke. You want a Coke? Yeah. What kind? Sprite. It's like, that's a whole different world for traveling. But anyway, whatever you call it, that sugar bubbly water that does no good for you whatsoever. I dropped that. That helped me drop some of the weight too. So now, as we speak, it's become such a part of my life. I am not going to turn it around. And I make Facebook posts, not to brag, but it's like, okay, I'm a comedian. I was a baseball player until I was 19 or 20. Then I got into comedy. So I was very athletic. And then, like many Americans, no athletics. So diet and exercise have a huge part of it, both for type 1 and type 2, but especially type 2 when it is reversible. So our friend that you heard the podcast on, he approached me in the same thing. He said, you made that much of a change? It's like, yeah, I'm going to be 60 here coming up in 3 weeks. So all through my 50s, I was basically a dud. But in the last almost a year, completely changed my life around. I feel better. I sleep better. I eat better. I think better. I'm funnier on stage. It has been a complete turnaround. And now I am addicted to the healthy lifestyle. I know that sounds corny and sappy, but it's totally true.
Fantastic. Man, my gosh, you just open up so many threads and so many questions. I'm trying to write and type.
I'll shut my mouth.
No, that's fine. You're on a podcast, for crying out loud. You can't shut your mouth. You got to talk. So, all right, as you're going through everything, I want to talk about your daily steps and everything else later on. But right now, still talking about the diabetes. Can anybody get diabetes, or is it something you're born with, or how does somebody develop?
These are all excellent questions. And I am not a doctor. I don't play one on television. I am learning, as we all are, about it. It's a constant process. A lot of it is genetic, and how you get it, but a lot of it is diet and exercise. Type 1 is more genetic. Your pancreas stops functioning, and that's just one of those things where there are now pancreas transplants, which is an amazing technology of the past few years. And they used to have to, prick your finger, the whole thing. That is now they have a glucose monitor, which is you don't have to do that anymore. So technology is really, but it's different for everybody. But now there are, I believe, 39 million diabetes, type 1, type 2, pre-diabetes, which your body is transitioning, or gestational, which is with pregnant women. So you're talking 40 million people have it. It's a pretty big business, unfortunately. Now, let me ask you this. I don't mean to, because I didn't know any of this until I started, but are you familiar with how insulin was invented?
No.
It was invented in Canada by some doctors up there, and it was out of a pig, I believe, is what it was. And they patented it, and the patent they sold it for $1. They sold it back so the public could technically benefit from this great technology. Well, now it's billions and zillions, and big pharma got a hold of it, and it's very corrupt. Where the people that had good, Canadians are nice people as a rule anyway.
Yes, they are.
But they basically donated back to society and totally got jammed by the medical system. So there's the diabetes costs are through the roof. There's a lot we can talk about there, but it's ugly. People that need help, medical help, are not getting it, and that's very sad. And I don't like to see that.
Man, dude, Dobie, we can go onto that thread all day long, but I want to stick more toward the health.
Absolutely, but I'm sorry, I know I go off in tangents. I'll shut my
that's
mouth.
fine, and it's perfectly fine. I understand that, because once again, this is a different kind of podcast. And for those just tuning in, I'm talking with Dobie Maxwell from JustMyTypePodcast.com, and we're talking about diabetes and health and fitness. So we're getting into all that. All right. So how does a person find out they have diabetes? I mean, what are the symptoms, or do they have to go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, man, you got it? Or what? How do they know?
It manifests itself in many ways, and I'm going to tell you a story here, which is the way I got diagnosed, and it's pretty graphic. And I'm not going to use bad language. I'm just going to tell you what happened. Okay.
Okay.
I woke up one day. This is in June, near Father's Day, and one of my testicles was about 4 times bigger than the other. Now,
Oh my
for a
God.
man, I hope we have women listening, but for a man, that's a scary thought. Now, if both
Yeah.
of them were enlarged, you walk proud. If one of I got a mango next to a golf ball, that's a very unusual situation. I'm
Yes,
sorry,
it
just
is.
that's what
Yes.
happened. So, and again, I'm a self-employed entertainer, so I have the 100% deductible plan on insurance. I had no insurance, so I'm thinking I let it go for 3 or 4 days. Well, maybe I hit it on a cabinet walking by. I mean, you can make all these excuses up because
Oh yeah.
I didn't
Oh
have
yeah.
any doctor, no health insurance. So days later, it did not go away. So I knew I had to go to the emergency room. And so it happened to be Father's Day morning. So I
Oh my
get there,
word.
and summer's not a strong time for comedy. So I happened to be off. So I stopped on the way to the hospital and not knowing my diagnosis. And I bought a big jar of Gatorade and 2 pieces of watermelon. Gee, no sugar in there. And I drank the Gatorade, then I ate the pieces of watermelon because it was a hot day in June on Father's Day. And
Right.
I get
Right.
to the emergency room, and of course, the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in my entire life
Of
is
course.
the clerk or the admissions. What would you call it? The
Right.
person
Right.
at the admissions desk.
Right. Right.
And she, oh, what seems to be wrong with you, sir? One of my, that's a word that you don't want to throw out there. Excuse me. One of my testicles is larger than the other. And she gets on the loud testicles, aisle 2, testicle. So they all come, it's like a pit crew from a car race. And they're sitting down in a room and they're taking all the fluids and the blood pressure and everything like that. And they came back a few minutes later and said, Mr. Maxwell, you have diabetes. And that is just a talk about bringing the hammer down. I never expected that in a million years. And that's when they said, does anyone else in your family have it? I said, no, they all got cancer and deserved it. Ha ha. And I said, well, I have a gig tonight. You're not going anywhere. You're staying in the hospital. It's like, excuse me, I have a gig. No, you're not going anywhere. Your blood sugar is 500. I said, is that good? I had no idea what blood sugar was. I didn't know any of
Oh
the
yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
They said,
Yeah.
you're not going anywhere. So they got me a room. And they said diabetes manifests itself in different ways in different people, and you've got gangrene on your testicles.
Oh
Now
my
that is something
God.
a man does not, and nobody wants to hear it. When it's someone else, that's something out of a horror movie.
My
Something you say in driving. I hope you get gangrene on your testicles. Well, I got it, and they had to, without being too graphic, they took a piece of it out, and the doctor told me, he said, a couple more days, you'd have lost your plumbing. You'd have all been gone. We can fix this, but you're in a lot of trouble here. You caught it by the skin of your teeth. So what they did was they took a little piece off. I was in the hospital for 9 days, and it was a whole thing. And I had to learn about diabetes, and they don't really teach you a whole lot, and it was very scary in the situation. So that's when I was got out of the hospital. I walked. They said you can reverse this with diet and exercise. So I walked for miles, and I ate. I remember walking to the grocery store the first day I was diagnosed. It's like, I can't eat anything in here. Yeah, I never read a label and talk about carbohydrates and an education like learning Chinese right from scratch. So
Wow.
again, one thing led to another. I did turn it around. They said you can reverse it. I thought it's reversed permanently. No, the exercise and diet process is an ongoing thing, which I really didn't realize. So there was probably 10 years when I was very loose in monitoring it. So getting the co-host job on the Just My Type podcast was such a blessing because it really raised my awareness. So my birthday happens to be on March 14th. So last March 14th, they had a step challenge, and everybody on the show behind the scenes of the podcast were all in their 20s. Okay, I'm in my late 50s at the time, and I still am. And I thought, well, they're all taking a step challenge. I'm the old croaker here. I got to keep up with these young kids. And I walk 4,000 steps. And you always hear 10,000 steps is the magic number. So the first few weeks, I could barely 3,000 steps. I'm ready to throw up. But I worked my way. So from March 14th until April 11th, I worked my way up to the first time of 10,000 steps. And I was just about bent over. I was, sore and everything. But now every day since April 11th of this past year, I have walked at least 10,000 steps. Now, I live in the Midwest, so the spring and summer was good, and fall was decent, but now I got into winter. So I got like the big box stores, the Walmarts, there's a big grocery store, and what's up. So I don't go to the same place every day, so I don't think I'm a shoplifter going, walking to the store all the time. Can I help you, sir? Just getting my steps in. But I got about 4 or 5 places, so I get my steps in any morning. I try to get it done before 9 a.m. I don't always succeed, but I try to get it done at least before noon. But if I can get it done early in the morning or at noon, I figure I've done something good. I have a victory today. I have the rest of the day for myself. Now, as of recording this today, I know we screwed up on time and I was out doing it. So I haven't done my walk yet today, but I'm going to get it in. It's such a part of my life now that I can't see myself not doing it. I'm going to look on my calendar. I keep a calendar. I write down all the steps that I do. I'm going to tell you the exact day because I'm not exactly sure. But I think it's over 300. Today is February, as we're recording this, the 21st, day 316 in a row.
Well, congrats. That's fantastic.
7 days a week. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, snow, sleet, rains, whatever it is. And as the first week was hard, the first month was hard. Then after a while, it's like it just becomes part of your day. And it takes about an hour 40, sometimes, hour 35, maybe if I walk a little pretty good space. So that's a big time out of your day. And I think you have to get yourself in a mental place where I watch podcasts, I make phone calls, and I put posts out everywhere just so people will ask me, hey, are you still walking? Because we're all human. Nobody wants to get out there. There's some days you just don't feel like doing it.
Right. So, okay. So, oh my gosh, once again, there's so much we could talk about here.
Good.
So let's stick with the walking real quick because this fascinates me. 10,000 steps a day. Yeah. And I read somewhere just 2 weeks ago, last week, whatever it was, saying that there's no magic number in the amount of steps to be quote unquote healthy or fitter. And that's just a fictitious number somebody threw out there. And it wasn't in a negative way. It just because the question was asked of the host of the interview I was listening to, saying, well, is there a magic number? How many steps should the human body do? He says there is none. Everyone's different. But people started saying 10,000 because it was just a round number. And so now a lot of people go for the 10,000 just because it's a round number. And it's cool to say, I'm in the triple digits now. Right, the 5-digit number category.
Interesting that you bring that up, Andrew. It is because I read some of the similar things that there was a guy in Japan, supposedly a doctor, that kind of made that up because exactly what you said, round number, blah blah blah. And everybody's legs are different lengths and stride is different.
Right,
I get all that. And then people say, well, I walk, but I don't walk 10,000. I said, hey, don't use. I just use that number for all the reasons that you just said. Right. It happens to work for me. It's about 5 miles. If you can even walk. I say the time thing, 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes a day. Mine is, an hour. I made a commitment, but you don't just go from 0 to 10,000 steps because you're going to get sore. And you're going to get sick of it. And it's a time thing. So you got to work your way up. Better to walk every day, 20 to 30 minutes, which is fair. You get your heartbeat up a little bit. And it doesn't matter how many steps that is. So I think it's easier to measure time, in my opinion, than it is steps. But now I had no idea did you measure your steps on the phone? I didn't know you could do that. I'm old. It's one of those things that you kids
old
get
guys
off my
in
life.
Technology, I'm telling you.
I'm still on MySpace. You know what I'm saying? I remember the Sports Illustrated shoe phone back there. These you kids today. But you learn that. I think it's how can I say? It is validating to look on my phone because it has a little graph and I can go back for 6 months or now almost a year. And I can show people there's 10,000 steps a day. I'm not making it up. We all can tell fishtails if we want to, but the proof is right here. It's every day I've done it.
Wow, that's great. Now, once again, for the people who just tuning in, listening, I'm talking with Dobie Maxwell from justmytypepodcast.com. We're talking about health, fitness, and diabetes. And right now we're talking about steps. And to go back on what you were just saying about walk for time and don't worry about the steps when you're just starting out or whatever. One of the things that I do is I work with the Fitness Over 50 crowd.
Sure.
And I tell people, if your goal is to show off your body on stage somewhere, chances are what I'm teaching isn't proper for you because that's a whole different mindset, a whole different category. I'm looking for people who just want to look better, feel better, gain some confidence. If that means to get off the couch and walk around the house once and makes you feel better, great, because tomorrow we'll walk around the house once plus another step, so on and so forth. We'll just accumulate, keep going, because you like you said, to do it all at once is probably, I don't want to say not beneficial, but it hurts you more than it helps you if you try to get into 10,000 steps all at once without starting from somewhere.
Without a question. Like I said, coming from basically ground zero, and I was embarrassed. I looked at my steps. I didn't know the phone was tracking you and watching you. I was averaging, and I'm the first one to admit it, under 300 steps a day, Andrew. That's embarrassing. Because I'm a comedian basically by trade. That's what I do. Yeah. I get up, I read, I walk back and forth to the fridge. I get something to eat, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't even walking, but so it took me from almost a month to go from from basically ground zero. And I think the first couple of days I did 2,000 to 3,000 steps, and I felt it, man. My tongue was hanging and wagging. So then, okay, almost a month to get to 10,000 steps. Don't even now, almost a year later, I'm still sore. Like yesterday, I think I walked 16,000. I did almost 10, and then I had another errand to do, and then I went out walking with somebody else, and it's like, okay, I'm way over. It's like I could barely get out of bed this morning. So don't think that that's ever going to end. But what I'm telling you is, and you said, you think better a little bit more than a day. Then you get a little self-esteem going on. Then you make it a part of your life. Then you tell your friends and they ask you about it. So it keeps you out there going. I think exercise is a cumulative effect, and we all stop, when we get what age? 20s, maybe mid-20s. And it's like, when you were a kid, did you grow up in Indiana, Midwest?
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you do in the summer? You went out and you played baseball. You ate breakfast, you played baseball, and then you ate lunch. Then you played baseball till the sun went down at 9 or 10 o'clock. Then you did the whole thing over.
Yep.
And then you don't. So you do it all through your school years, and then whether it's high school, girlfriend, whatever it is, and you got a job, and the next thing you know, you're sitting around 19 hours a day, and it's just like that's off a table too. It's not a gradual end; it's just over with.
I say the same thing. And when a lot of us were athletes in high school and college. I played baseball as well, like yourself.
Sure.
And then after college, you become an adult, and life happens. The 2-hour gym workouts turn to 1 hour. And with the 5 buddies used to work out with, maybe 3 come. And then it only turns to 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And then that 1 hour, I can skip it. I can go tomorrow. My buddy can't make it out. Well, I just go for a half hour, do a set of bench press and go home. And then pretty soon you're working out once every month or so and think you're in great shape. And all of a sudden you wake up one day in your 30s and you get the furniture disease where your chest went down to your drawers and you're in horrible shape. I mean, we both been through there. I mean, just been talking to you a little.
And here's another thing too, Andrew. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think one thing that people don't realize as you get older, it's injury. And you pull something, you have a whatever it is, and then you don't exercise for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and then you get out of it, and it's a downward spiral. And I know the last thing people shut up with your rah, and it's like, no, it isn't a rah. It's you take care of your car. You don't put oil in your car, the engine's going to blow. And the same thing with your body. You put good food in your body. Yeah, I like a Big Mac once in a while.
Oh yeah.
But as a comedian, I was eating it, every day basically.
Oh yeah.
And there's moderation. That word gets overused, but I really think there's something to be said about it. It's not like you can't have a treat. People think, well, I'm just going to eat tofu well, okay, but you can't have junk every day. Doesn't work that way.
Right. And I always say it's like putting fuel in a Ferrari. Putting kerosene in a Ferrari.
Sure.
You can't do it that way. All right. So it's a great transition about diet. Right. So obviously you changed your diet completely from what you said.
Yes.
I mean, you went from one extreme to the other. I mean, I can't imagine that everybody that develops diabetes or gets diagnosed with diabetes goes from one extreme to the other like yourself.
Correct.
I would assume. Is that correct? Am I on track?
No, I think so. And I think the word fear really comes to mind in my diagnosis story. And again, I can't think of another way to say it because that's what happened. That's pretty dramatic. And it did strike fear in me. I'm thinking, boy, I think I'm going to have a lot of changes I don't want. So I went the pendulum the other way to say, okay, I can reverse this. But then I got back. I think there's got to be a happy medium. And you just have to think about reading labels, how many carbohydrates a day, because you're sitting down and watch a ball game or something, and you finish off a whole bag of whatever it is, Oreos, chips, something that's not good for you. Well, now I will sit down, and I got it here somewhere as we're speaking. I've got a veggie tray with cauliflower chopped up and broccoli and carrot sticks and a little bit of. Okay, well, you know what? It's got the same crunching effect. I still watch the ball game, and it's a much better effect on your body, and it's not really that much of a change. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a painful change, but I think there's got to be a plan in place. And I say nobody can do it alone. You need a coach. Watch podcasts like this. You're putting out great information. Hopefully, you might think I'm an idiot. What if I give you one point that you can use? What if you start walking for a week? Maybe it's not 10,000. Maybe it's 1,000 steps. Maybe like you said, around the block and that kind of stuff. You got to start. You got to do it. Don't think of the final product. You got to think, what can I do today? And then tomorrow and the next day, not 5 years from now, I'm going to be Schwarzenegger.
Okay. So, and you brought up something I wanted to talk about, going back to my story about my friend earlier, who said he doesn't exercise or work out or do anything at all. He just strictly from diet. He went down once again. It's a very drastic change. healthy or not, I don't know. I would assume he's in contact with his doctor. I didn't really get into a lot of details with him. So my question to you is, since you do all this walking, I'm going to assume you've done a lot of research on fitness, exercise, and everything else. Is it I don't know how I want to say this. Of course, it's always going to be beneficial to move your body. That is my personal philosophy. No matter what you do, moving your body is better than not moving your body. Okay.
Correct.
Is it still safe if you just change your diet and not move your body in a health way? Is it still safe for the diabetes?
Again, not a doctor, but just from much. And
Right.
you're asking very good questions, by the way. You really done your homework, and I'm very impressed. Thank you for having me on. But I think okay, your car needs gas and oil. Okay, if you put gas in it and you leave the oil not changed, that's going to be not as good as gas and oil. Like you said, putting kerosene in a Ferrari or Lamborghini, so I think some people have, you know what neuropathy is? And again, I'm not implying that you don't, because I didn't know what that was.
No, I no. Assume I
Now,
don't.
neuropathy is a word. It feels like you're on pins and needles, like it's almost like your foot fell asleep.
Okay.
And that is a diabetic neuropathy, is something that affects a lot of times your feet and your hands too, your fingers, but a lot of times your feet, and you can't walk. Or maybe there's a situation where, like you said, you have a bad something wrong with you, or maybe a knee or some arthritis or something like that, and you can't do what you can do. Walking is the most natural exercise. You don't need a gym to do it, and there might be some weather issues, but most places you have some kind of indoor place you can walk somewhere.
Yes.
Like a mall or something like that, or a Walmart or something. But I think people don't necessarily like the motion, but your body is meant to. You'll be surprised walking, if you can do even 10 minutes a day. It will get addictive to you, because your heart will beat faster, and your blood will flow smoother, and your digestion will go better, and there's a cumulative effect. So I gotta say, you can't do one without the other. And I'm not, there's exceptions to every rule. And if someone's watching me while I'm in a wheelchair, and I'm not making fun of your condition, and I'm not saying that, but for 99% of the people, and again, just say, well, I walk a lot, so I can eat lard and hot fudge every day, and I don't have to eat any vegetables. That's not true either. I think one has to, yin and yang. It's got to go with one. It's got to go with the other. I really think that. And you don't have to be a fanatic. Yes, you're absolutely right. I did totally change and you don't have to be as dramatic a change as I am overnight. But I will say this: if you allow yourself, I say, give yourself 30 days to really start feeling legitimately, realistically, you can feel a change in 30 days. You're going to want to eat good food. You're going to want to walk more, because that feeling is addictive. It might not sound like that if you're sitting there with a bag of pork rinds in one hand and a beer in the other, because that feels good, man. It does. I get it, but it feels better. And I'm living proof talking to you right now. It's been almost a year, and I am not ever going to not do this again.
That's fantastic. And you've hit on so much right there that I always say, the first few days of a change, whether it's working out, diet change, whatever, your body's going to say, oh, hey, what's going on here? We don't like what you're doing, so we're going to make you feel bad, because we want to go back to what we're used to. But if you can get past that feeling after the first 2, 3, 4 days, maybe a week, it's all of a sudden you start to feel better. And like you said, in 30 days, your life can change completely just if you stick to it. And it doesn't have to be a gazillion steps a day. It doesn't have to be 2 hours in the gym. A little bit at a time. But your body is going to experience a change, and it's going to want to resist because it's not used to it.
Totally true. Here's one thing I will say, though, if possible, and this is suggested because as a comedian in my lifestyle, it's a very loner by yourself lifestyle. If you can get one other person to help you through at least the first week. And hey, things come through, situations, work, family, whatever. If you miss a day, you feel bad. It's not going to kill you. Oh my gosh, I did it 12 days and then I missed a day. The important part is that 14th day, you missed the 13th day. Okay, life comes up. Then missing 2 days becomes easier. That next day is so crucial, man. You are just on the peak of a house. And to be able to, now I haven't missed at this particular time, but other people have. And it's like, oh, I feel so horrible and then I'm a loser. No, you're still a winner. But you got to get back on that horse when you stop.
Yep.
And I tell people, it's like, I know there's going to be something when I'm going to miss it for whatever reason. I have to catch a plane or I can't do it. But I guarantee you, after the day I miss it, I will be out more than 10,000 steps. And I will make up that 10,000 steps in the next couple of days.
Fantastic.
That's where you have to get your mindset to. And that doesn't happen overnight. And it's unfair to put yourself in that position to even think that. Just get better. Even listening to this podcast, I can tell you know what you're talking about. And I would be encouraged if I was new listening to us talk, because this is real. You get these good looking supermodels on there and you got to work out. And we're real people over 50. And you're going to, if you're lucky, you're going to get over 50 anyway. You might as well. We had some fun years, like I said, when we could eat everything we want to. Now we're going to pay for that.
Yeah.
The credit card bill came in. We're going to pay that off.
And no one can say that I'm a supermodel by any stretch.
I would say that, yes. If I was in prison, you'd be my girlfriend. I'm kidding.
There you go. All right. So, Dobie, I asked for about a half hour of your time, and we're about up. Tell people, because I got one more question at the end, but tell people how they can find you if they wanted to reach out and what you do. You want to talk about your comedy, great, your podcast, whatever. So how can people find you?
But it's Dobie, Just My Type Podcast, DOBIE. That's the podcast we use. And I was telling Andrew off the air here that our company is in a bit of a transition, and they're going to sell out to another company. We've got 75 episodes. My partner, Sammy Dobie, she's type 1. She's great. And it's like the young and old thing, Regis and Kathy Lee. I'll mention names she doesn't know. She'll mention boy bands I don't know. And we laugh about it, but there's something there for everybody. Also, I wrote a book. It's got nothing to do with diabetes. It's called Monkey in the Middle. My best friend, since we were little kids, robbed the bank that he used to work at. It's a true story. I'm not making it up. He robbed it twice. He tried to blame the second robbery on me. I had to wear a wire for the FBI to get him to confess that he did it. Wow. There's a lot of funny parts in it. There's a lot of non-funny parts in it. It's 380 pages. I wrote every word of it myself. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I had to wear a wire, and I testified in federal court, and my best friend since childhood went to prison. So before COVID, I was in Hollywood trying to get it sold and made into a movie. And I got some nibbles and some interest. So now that COVID is hopefully over, whatever, that will get that going. But if you want to pick that up, that is at Eckhartz, ECKHARTZ press.com. Monkey in the Middle, Dobie Maxwell. You can pick up a copy there. Other than that, just reach out and say hi. I'll send you, anybody that's listening, watches the show, I'll send you, I also get a package of jokes, or I put out a daily joke on Facebook a day. It's not dirty or anything like that too. So it's always good to get fans and friends. And Andrew, hopefully, thanks for reaching out. Anytime you need me, I'll come back on. If I'm ever near Indiana, I'll give you free tickets. If you're ever near Chicago,
oh, absolutely.
If they have a healthy lunch, I'll buy.
Fantastic. Which brings up my other question I was going to ask, not fitness and health related, but do you have a tour schedule? Do you? Because
with COVID came around and stuff, I was doing it. I don't right now. I'm kind of getting back out there again. I've been doing this a long time, and in your 20s, it's fun. And I have a nice, a lady friend now that are good. And I gave up marriage and kids because I don't want to put a family through this. So right now, I'm taking a little break, and I'm doing some stuff around the Chicago area, but that's about it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, once again, Dobie Maxwell is my guest, justmytypepodcast.com. Go check it out. When you go over there, if you give a message to Dobie, tell him that you heard him on my show and that I said hi. And we'll just stop it here. Dobie, once again, thank you for being a guest on Top Fitness Strategies and Top Fitness Strategies Presents. You're welcome to come back anytime. And once again, if we're ever in the same area, we will hook up and have a nice, healthy
lunch on me. There's going to be some vegetables on your plate, brother. I'm going to watch you eat them. Thanks, Andrew. Fantastic. It's a treat to meet you, man. Now we're friends. We didn't know each other. Now we're friends. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, this is Andrew. I'm the face who runs the place. And so until next time, this is Andrew and Dobie. Ciao.